When Governor Baker was kind enough to ask me to take on the leadership of MassDOT, some of the reaction was, it seems like an odd couple. Charlie Baker and Stephanie Pollack. And the thing that we actually have in common is that we both see transportation as fundamentally an economic development issue, not an issue about moving people from point A to B, although that's one of the ways in which transportation is an economic development issue.
Bravo.
So the way I see the agencies is that we do four things, and all of them need to interact in very fundamental ways with our economic development strategy as an administration. So the first thing we do is we own and maintain assets, tens of billions of dollars in assets, hundreds of miles of roads, hundreds of bridges, hundreds of which are structurally deficient. Hundreds of rail cars, dozens of rail stations, hundreds of buses. And we have, as a Commonwealth and under many administrations over decades, not years, we have not made a sufficiently deep investment in the condition of those assets. And so stopping the deferral of maintenance and reinvesting in our assets becomes one of our top priorities. And while doing that supports the economy because it supports a system that can meet the economy's needs, it actually throws off a huge number of jobs, right? And these are jobs that don't go anywhere else. You cannot de-stress the rails on the Framingham line anywhere but in Massachusetts, right? So whether those jobs are done by public employees or Massachusetts companies, the work is being done here. And so there's a lot we can be doing. I met yesterday with a coalition of groups who want to see us increase the size of a relatively new but very promising pre-apprenticeship program that we're doing to funnel more folks from across the state into those transportation-related jobs. So we invest, but because we invest here in the system, we also create jobs here, and we need to connect folks who need jobs to those. The second thing that we do is we provide service. We provide services to folks at the registry. I hear a lot about that as I go around the Commonwealth. We provide services to plow and salt our roads. Perhaps the most important service that we've heard the most about in this administration has been transit service. And so I would tell you, and many of you have been partners with us on this, the single most important piece of economic development legislation we have right now is the MBTA reform bill. The governor and I have said we will own the T and we will fix the T, but we can't do that without the tools. And right now I am one of 7 people on a board. I do not hire or fire anyone at the MBTA. I ask a lot of things, and I will say that they have been collaborative. But at the end of the day, and Jay starting off with the story of Chelsea is a good introduction to this, we know control boards can work. We know what happened in Chelsea. We know what happened in Springfield. And the most important thing we know they can do is wade into a thicket of problems and accelerate the rate at which we can fix them. And we have precious little time to fix the T. So if a control board makes that happen sooner, then it's the thing we want, and under the legislation, the control board would report to the secretary, and so that's a huge economic development imperative for us. The third thing we do, and another opportunity to better interface between transportation and economic development, is we plan and we prioritize. And one of the things that I have been telling both folks inside the transportation building and outside as I have traveled around the Commonwealth is I actually do not believe that there is such a thing as transportation planning, because that assumes that the word planning is modified by the word transportation. We shouldn't plan transportation. We should plan the future of a prosperous Commonwealth with thriving cities and towns and workers who are employed, and then we should figure out the transportation system that we need to support that Commonwealth. And that requires integrating how we do transportation planning with workforce development planning and economic development planning in a very fundamental way that we will do as an administration. And then finally, we invest. We take those assets we already own and those services we provide, and we make investments in modernizing the system we have and expanding its capacity where new capacity is needed in order to serve the economic needs of the Commonwealth. It is not an either or. It is not about doing deferred maintenance and then getting to investment in the future. The capital program that the MassDOT and the MBTA have together put out, and which is in the middle of the public hearing process, would put $3 billion into our transportation system in fiscal 16 alone, an amount that is comparable to the spending rate during the most intense period of the Central Artery, except that it's actually spread across the Commonwealth and across our assets. And that's just our one-year plan. As soon as we're done with that one-year plan, we need to do 5-year spending plans for both MassDOT and MDOT. And again, as we figure out where and which investments to make, they need to produce. The reason I call them investments and not projects is investments have returns. And what we're basically saying is we are redefining the meaning of a return on investment in our transportation assets. And that return needs to include the economic development return, the quality of life return, the ability to connect workers to jobs, the ability to connect students to higher education opportunities. And so we will be filing with the legislature by within the next month a set of transparent, quantitatively based project selection criteria that will help us prioritize the available investments that we could be making by explicitly looking at how those investments in both modernizing and in adding capacity relate to these other objectives: economic development, achieving our greenhouse gas goals, improving the quality of life. So it's a big agenda, but at the base of the agenda is the fundamental understanding that the transportation system is underneath the economic future of the Commonwealth. And by explicitly recognizing that relationship, from day one, we can begin to do things differently than has been done in the past, and we can make sure that whether we are maintaining our assets, providing services, planning and prioritizing, or investing, we do all of them with the economy and the prosperity of the Commonwealth in mind. Thanks very much.